Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Good morning. Fermi, could you indicate that you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right, great. Awesome. So, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our interview tips and hacks webinar. And I think it's not inclusive to say good morning. So I know in some places it's the afternoon, it's midnight, and I don't know, evening. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good everything for everybody. Welcome to our interview tips and hacks webinar. Today, I will be going through a few things. We'll be talking about us, that is Titanal Consulting, general interview tips, interview types, interview frameworks, types of interview questions, full interview answers, and we're going to be having a fun demo, which is like a good and bad interview demo with one of our consultants, which is going to be like a mini interview for you guys to see and learn from. We're going to be talking about next steps, and there's going to be a Q&A after this session. So my name is Tommy. I am the senior partner at Titanal Consulting. I'm also an MBA alum from the Ohio State Fisher College of Business, and I'm honored to be speaking to all of you today. I founded Titanal Consulting about a year ago, I think a year and a month ago, and I have focused more on helping business school students, professionals achieve their goals. So basically, what we do is divided into two. So we have admission services, we have career services. For your admission service, we act like a coach for admissions interview prep, resume reviews, essay reviews, other pre-enrollment opportunities, just to make sure that you put in the very best and get the more chances of getting into a top school with more scholarships and funding. Then our career services, which is very interesting because there is a gap between when grad students come into school and what they actually get to do when they get here abroad. So we cover internship and full-time job search coaching. We do your resume and cover letter reviews. We have your interview preparations, different types of interviews. We prepare you for career conferences and everything you need to be successful and launch your career in the US or Canada or the UK, wherever you are taking your grad school. So before we start fully, I need you to know that there is a chat box. So type all of your questions in the chat box, and occasionally, even before the presentation is over, we'll be going through the chat box to answer questions. So the first thing we'll be talking about today is general interview tips. Things you should know before the interview, things you should do during the interview, and things you should do after the interview. So before the interview, you're supposed to know the company's interview rubric. We have some companies that are just behavioral interview questions based. They just want to get to know you. They want to get to know if you're a fit for their culture. They just want to know if they like you, right? But there are some other companies that mix their behavioral interviews with others, like consulting cases and other technical interviews. So apart from getting the fit, they want to be sure that you actually are technically good. So if this is a finance interview, an investment banking interview, how much of finance and accounting do you know? If this is a consulting case interview, how much of strategy do you know? They want to get that out. Then you need to master the act of storytelling. It's not just enough to know your company's interview rubric. You need to know how to tell your stories, right? How do you break down your stories? How do you draw insight out of your stories? How do you make your stories interesting? How do you get the other party interested in listening to you? Especially if you're talking to somebody that is not of your nationality, of your color, and you have an accent. How do you make sure that they're not dozing off or they're not zoning out? You need to master that art, and you need to time yourself. A lot of us, yes, we like talking, and sometimes we spend like 5 minutes. You should not spend like 5 minutes talking to yourself. If I were your interviewer, I would be dozing or imagining food in my head. So averagely, your interview time should be about 2 minutes per question, except if your interviewer now asks you further questions. So you need to be able to time yourself before the interview. Then during the interview, you need to appear confident without appearing arrogant. So there is a thin line between appearing confident and appearing arrogant. So you need to appear like, oh, I know my onions, I know what I'm doing, but I'm also willing to learn, and I'm not a know-it-all kind of person. Then you need to cultivate the right energy and vibe. So some of you might have like interviewers that are very excited, jumping, and you just feel like, oh, I'm a quiet person, and you're just all gentle and quiet. That is not cultivating the right energy, because you're not matching the energy of your interviewer. And already that could indicate you're not like a good fit for that particular role or that particular position. Because if that interviewer is recruiting you for her team, she could see that this person is not actually displaying the amount of energy that is required. Then you have to be very passionate. So if they ask you why this company, like, you need to really prove to them, you need to show that, oh, this is why I want to work in this company. Not just say things that are just bland and just like you could just get online. They need to see that, oh, it's either us or nothing. You need to show that kind of passion. Then your body language and eye contact. You must maintain eye contact with your interviewer. I know some of us are shy, and sometimes unknowingly we look away when we're talking to people. You need to cultivate the habit of looking at your interviewer's eye. Like, do not move away. Keep following the eye. Then your body language also. Don't touch your face and touch your nose, cleaning your nose, all those things. I know that for some of us, it's like normal, we're trying to touch our face. But actually, if you are talking and touching your face and your nose all the time, it indicates that you're lying. You don't want to pass on the information that I'm actually lying. So try not to touch your face. It's okay for you to gesticulate, use your hands, but maintain eye contact, and your body language should be exciting. Like, you can move your shoulders, just show that you're excited, not just sit there like a log of wood. Then after the interview, you should ask intelligent questions. So you are not just asking questions that you can find online. Ask questions like asking your interviewer, why is your interviewer still at this company? What has made the interviewer stay in this company? What is it like to work in this company every day? What is it like to actually work in that position? Then you can indirectly ask for feedback by saying things like, oh, are there any specific skills that are expected of me of this job that I haven't displayed that you would like to learn? That way, you are giving your interviewer the vibe that I like to learn, right? And I'm ready to take all the feedback that I can. Then lastly, you need to send a thank you note to your recruiter or interviewer. This actually makes a difference. So before the end of your interview, you could ask your interviewer, is it okay for me to connect with you on LinkedIn? Is it okay for me to get your email address? And just send a short thank you note. It actually shows that you are thoughtful and you actually genuinely care about them. Then we'll be going into interview types. So there are different types of interview types. There are different types of interviews, actually. So we have the behavioral interviews that they just want to check. It's majorly fit questions. How do you behave? How do you show yourself in certain situations? Then we now have case interviews, which are like consulting cases, strategy cases. Then we have hypothetical questions. Then we have technical interviews. So the technical interviews could be finance, could be marketing, could be operations, it could be product management, it could be different things. They will not have informal interviews like elevator pitch style. So sometimes you're just called for an informal interview. You can meet somebody on the road, at a career fair. How do you you need to know that every conversation you have with a prospective employer is like an interview, right? And how do you get to prepare for all these interviews? Then we have interview frameworks. So I would go through just two frameworks. For the behavioral interview, and for technical and case interviews. Please note that this is not exhaustive. We have more frameworks, and I'm happy to help you through all the different types of frameworks if you send us an email and you want us to help you. First, I will start from the behavioral interviews. Here we have the STAR format, or people call it the CAR format. Situation, task, action, results, or context, action, results. For situation, you're supposed to provide like a brief context, background of what is happening, right? Then for task, what exactly were you asked to do? Or what problem were you trying to solve? Or what is the thing that you were asked to do that kind of connects you with the question asked? Then your action is, what did you do to solve this? What are the steps that you personally took? We have results, which was the outcome. You should note that your result should tie to your question asked. Some people will give results that don't tie to the question. At the end of the day, the interviewer is confused. Then I've added something to the STAR format, which is the learning point. What did you learn differently from this experience? For every question that you are asked, you should be able to bring out a learning point. How is this different from every other experience? Because of the actions you took, what did you learn? You need to be able to point that out. And it also has to tie with the question that you were asked. Then we have the frameworks for technical and case interviews. We have the big picture framework. We have the 4 C's, that is company, competition, customer, consumer. The 4 P's, product, price, place, and promotion. Potter's 5 4 C's, segmentation process, that segment, target, and positioning. So what happens in your technical and case interviews is they ask you questions, right? And you are supposed to use the frameworks to answer the questions. So based on your preparedness for a case interview, you would know, okay, this particular question wants me to use a particular framework. So you need to break down the situation into these different frameworks, and you need to provide your answers based on the frameworks. What always happens, and I've seen happen, is people are not able to differentiate like case interviews, or they don't even prepare for the case interviews. So they ask you a question, you don't even know you are meant to use a framework, and you just start talking and saying things that actually are not in line. That is an automatic fail. Then we have different types of interview questions. So I'll take you through different types of questions. So we have general interview questions, which some of you would know about. We have your, tell me about yourself, tell me about the time you led a team, tell me about the time you created something, tell me about the time you innovated. Those are like general, tell me about yourself questions. Then we have fit questions. Here, the company is trying to see if you actually are a good fit for their culture, for their business type, for the role. So why tech? Why our company? Why should we hire you? This is a time for you to be able to blend your own personal skills and values to that of the company. So what I've seen a lot is they'll tell you why our company, and people will be like, oh, your company is a Fortune 10 company, it's a big company. I'm like, okay, there are plenty of Fortune 10 companies. Why exactly our company? You need to know why. How does that company appeal to you? How do you integrate yourself, your values, your skills with that company? Then why should we hire you? I'll be talking more about that in the next slide, but it's a very interesting question. Then we have the competency-based questions. So tell me about an accomplishment you're most proud of. That is a big competency-based question. And based on the type of company that you are going to be interviewing for, the way you answer this question would be different. There are some companies that they believe totally in collaboration. If you're talking about the achievements you're mostly proud of, you need to be able to make that flow into how you collaborated to make that happen. But there are some other companies that they don't care about collaboration. They just want you alone to do it. They want to see what you did. You need to make sure that you are saying this is what you did. Do not mix those two up, because you would now show that, oh, you're actually not a good fit for either company. You need to be able to show like, okay, my accomplishment has to go in line with what the company actually is interested in. Then growth, tell me about the time you failed. This is a very interesting question. They always ask it. They want to see, how do you deal with failure? And one thing people always miss is when they say, tell me about the time you failed, they're not asking you to tell them the whole story about your failure. Yes, they want to get the context on the failure, but they don't want you to tell them everything about the failure. They want to learn more on, what did you learn from the failure? Were you able to understand that you did things wrong? Did you assess yourself? Did you get feedback? How did you move forward? Did you get people to help you? Those are the kind of things that they want to hear, right? After your time about the time you failed. Then they also want to see, how did you take your learnings? How did you transfer your learnings into another situation? So it's like you'll be talking about two different stories shortly. A time you failed, what you learned from it, how you're able to transform your failure story, and how you're able to make that into a success story. So don't just leave your tell me about the time with just saying bad news. So this is the time I failed. Then what happened? What happened? We want to hear that. Then career direction. Where do you want to be in 5 years? That is very important for a lot of companies. They want to know where you want to be in 5 years. They want to know where you see yourself. And it's important for you to know what that is. And it's also important for you to align that with the company. We'll be talking more about that in the next slide. Then adaptability. Tell me about an experience you had dealing with change. People want to know that you like change. Nobody wants somebody that is just stuck up and doesn't want to change, right? So you need to talk about an experience that you had to deal with change. It could be an experience of somebody else from your team coming up with a different idea and how you were able to accept the idea and things like that. It could be that kind of story. Then communication. Tell me about the time you influenced senior management. If your role is particular on marketing, sales, you need to have your communications story really well. Because if you're not able to influence people, then how do you succeed in your role? I mean, it's hard for you to succeed if you're not able to influence people, right? So they want to see how you're able to succeed in your role. How do you communicate well? Then decision making. There are some specific roles that involve you to make decisions, like you are the person making this decision. And they would like to know, how do you go about making a decision? What are the things that you consider? So you get questions like, tell me about the time you had to make an unpopular decision. They want to know what you did, what you thought about, what is your thought process. They want to see those things, right? Then I will just go a little bit into some technical interviews. Marketing interview, they will ask you, what is the most successful product launch you have seen? Or what is the most successful ad campaign you've seen? Or what is the worst product you've seen? These questions could be very tricky. They don't expect you to come and say that, oh, the worst product I've seen is, let me think, what's my worst product? I don't know. Maybe the worst product I've seen is Hypo, which I don't think is the worst product. But you just say, oh, the worst product I've seen is Hypo. Okay, how is that a worst product? You need to provide context. And this is where you use the marketing frameworks. For example, the 4 Ps. How is this product the worst? Was it through the pricing? Was it through the means of promotion? Was it through the place? Maybe it was not easily accessible. Was it the product itself? Maybe it wasn't meeting the customer's demands, or it wasn't actually meeting the needs of the customers that were targeted for it, right? So you need to show them that, oh, I've considered all of these frameworks in my product launch, in my ad campaign. Not just that, oh, I think Coca-Cola's ads are the best. Okay, why? You don't have a reason. You must have a reason for everything, and it must be tied to the framework. Finance. An example of a finance interview question is, how do you forecast revenue for the kitchen equipment aisle in a store? So this is a very interesting question, because if you do not practice for this, you are going to be, you're just going to be talking, and it's just going to be zero. You forecast revenue 3 ways. We have top down, we have bottom up, we have year on year. You are supposed to tie those things into the kitchen equipment aisle, the particular store, and things like that, to be able to come up with like the big framework of, okay, this is how I actually forecast revenue. Make sure that when you are talking about forecasting revenue, you are not now bringing cost or profit or loss. They didn't ask you for forecasting profit. They said revenue. Make sure that you are in line with the question asked. Then finally, I'll be talking about hypothetical questions. An example of an hypothetical question is, how do you advise a company whether to start producing driverless cars? So before you can get this question, actually, you probably are interviewing for like a tech company or an auto company or something like that. So when they ask you this, they're not saying, what is your own thoughts? What's your idea? They're asking you for your idea, right? But they want you to be in line with the company. So if you're interviewing for a tech company or an auto company and you're saying, how do you advise a company whether to start producing driverless cars? What are the things you think about? What are the things you do? First of all, you have to consider the company's capabilities. Does this company have the required capabilities to start driverless cars? You need to consider consumers. Right now, are consumers asking for driverless cars? Then you need to consider competitors. Has anybody tried making driverless cars? Did they succeed? Those kind of things. That is how you should break down your answer to your interviewer. That way you sound very coordinated and your interviewer knows exactly what you are talking about. So those are some of the types of interview questions, especially for the behavioral, that is growth, career direction, adaptability. There are a lot more. And if you need more help with that, just send us an email. After this webinar, we'll be providing our email address so you could send us an email. Then we are going to be having our sample interview answers. So here I will be giving you like an interview question. I'll be answering it myself actually. So you'll be seeing and I'll be answering myself. So tell me about yourself, which is an interview question that most of you will get. I mean, in every interview, you should expect to get a tell me about yourself interview. For every, tell me about yourself question rather. For every interview, you should expect to get that. So a tell me about yourself question. A bad answer is, oh, my name is Anu. I'm from Lagos State. I'm the firstborn of my parents. I'm a born again Christian and I love cooking. So even though that is a bit about myself or not about myself, that is not what the interviewer wants to hear. They want to hear about yourself, on how you align with the goals of the company, about yourself, on how you've developed your skills to be successful in the company. They don't want to hear about your food, about your religion, about your, I don't know if you're the firstborn or the lastborn, or I don't know. They don't want to hear that. It's okay for you to say you're from Lagos State, but if you're interviewing outside Nigeria, you should produce more context, like I'm from West Africa or something, because not everybody knows what Lagos is. So I will now be providing you a good answer. So this is how you should answer your tell me about yourself question. I'm a second year MBA student at Titanal Business School. and I'm passionate about helping people. My love to help guided my decision to have an undergrad degree in accounting because I believed then that accountants helped businesses. This background propelled me to start a career in consulting because it offered the opportunity to impact lives and businesses on a larger scale. In my time at the consulting firm, I developed 3 skills. Firstly, I learned to lead with empathy. Secondly, I became more innovative as I learned to see the solution and not just the problem. Finally, I developed a growth mindset through the power of constructive feedback. As I advanced in my career, the need to have an MBA to achieve my long-term goals became more paramount, and I enrolled in Titanal Business School. I understand for this role, you are seeking someone who is analytical, data-driven, and I believe my prior experience and passion for the industry will spur me to be very successful in this position. So you can see the difference between the bad answer and the good answer. Here, in the good answer, I was able to provide a link between every career journey that I've made. So how did I move from undergrad? Why did I study accounting in my undergrad? Why did I decide to work in a consulting firm? And what exactly did I learn? What were the skills that I brought out of the consulting firm? Why did I decide to come from my MBA? And why exactly do I want this role? So the trick about this tell me about yourself is for different roles at different companies, you might tweak your tell me about yourself differently. So you could see here that I said in my time at the consulting firm, I developed 3 skills. Good. I made sure that this tell me about yourself is tailored for a particular company that is very deep on empathy. The company is very deep on growth mindset. The company is very deep on customer obsession because they want you to solve customers' problems. So I was able to put out the exact skills and values that is necessary for you to succeed in that company and highlighting it here that those were the part of the skills I learned in my consulting firm. So I would know that in your prior work experience, you guys have developed maybe 10 skills or 15 skills, right? Make sure that the skills that you're highlighting aligns with the company that you're applying to. If you're applying to a company that is so very data driven, you need to talk about how you learned to come up with strategies using data, right? Those are the things that you have to call out. So that's how it's different. Then the second question, why should we hire you? So this is a bad answer. You guys can see here. I've always come first in all levels of education. I'm a hard worker. And based on all my achievements and experience, I'm confident I'll be a good addition to your company. This might be true that you've always come first in every levels of education and you're a hard worker. But who is not a hard worker? Like everybody is a hard worker. Some people came first, some people came last, but they are working hard. How does that differentiate you from the pool of people that have also come first, from the pool of people that are hard workers? You need to have something that kind of differentiates you. Then I'll be taking you through the good answer. So you guys need to know that these are sample mock answers and do not have to reflect your exact answers. If you need help with us helping you craft your answers, helping you think about how to answer your questions, you can email us, but you don't have to craft your answers exactly like this. Please know that these are samples. So the good answer too is I could tell you of how great I am in solving complex problems, how awesome my analytical skills are, or how much of a hard worker I am. But I won't, because that doesn't differentiate me from the crowd of intelligent MBAs present in the world. I believe I will be a great addition to Titanal Finance because I do not give up or allow setbacks to tear me from achieving my goals. I keep grinding learning, and asking for feedback to be better. I was here earlier in the year to interview for an internship position, but I didn't get the role. Yeah, that was disappointing, but I didn't let it stop me from trying again. And this time, developing and preparing myself more. That attitude of mine is what makes me different. And that is what I believe makes me a good fit, because Titanal Finance is all about continuous learning to stay innovative. Because learning is the only way we stay relevant to our customers, our community, and even ourselves. So you can see how this is different from the first bad answer. Here, I was able to call out what makes me different. My resilience here makes me different. The fact that I do not allow setbacks deter me makes me different. And I was able to tie that because the company here, Titanal Finance, is very passionate about continuous learning to stay innovative. How do you stay innovative if you are not resilient? How do you stay innovative if you don't continuously learn and ask for feedback? I was able to directly tie that to what Titanal Finance is very passionate about. So I would say also, you need to fully understand what are the things that your company, the company that you're applying to, the company that you're interviewing for actually is very passionate about. And you need to be able to tie that to your own personal skills. Then we have this question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Bad answer is, I'll be occupying a senior leadership position, or I would have left to start my own business. Even though this question could be honest, that, okay, I would have left to start my own business. I only came here just for you guys to train me for 4 years. It would be wrong for you to give that kind of answer in an interview. They are interviewing you because they want to see where you see yourself in the company in 5 years, not where you see yourself outside the company, right? And also, they want to see how you have advanced and how you have grown. So I will be giving you an answer, which is also a sample answer. You do not have to use this exact same answer or this exact same format. So the good answer. In the first 2 years, I see myself becoming a true expert and a master at my role as a senior financial analyst at Titanal Finance. I plan to leverage on my past experiences and skills to contribute intellectually, understand areas that can be improved on, really get to know the ins and outs of the business, and look for opportunities to make the finance team and department as efficient as possible. That's for the first 2 years. For 3 years after that, I see myself being a key personnel in the department and a liaison to other teams in the organization. I want to be able to expand my expertise and offer help to other departments like sales, marketing, operations, using the skills and knowledge gained from my role. Finally, I believe I am who I am today due to the impact of my managers, my mentors. Hence, I would want to be in a position of mentorship where I can coach and be a guide to other young professionals through seminars, trainings, and strong participations in employee and network resource groups. You can see how this good answer is way different from the bad answer. Here, the good answer broke down the 5 years. So in the first 3 years, this is what I want to be. This is what I want to learn. In the next 3 years, this is where I see myself, right? Then apart from that, this good answer has been able to highlight other things that even in 5 years' time, it's not just about what I want to learn. It's about how I'm able to give back to the company, how I'm able to give back to other young professionals that are coming in after me, which is what a lot of companies actually are looking for. So it doesn't exactly, you don't exactly need to say you want to be in a position of mentorship where you can coach, but you need to have like a situation of, okay, what do I want to give back to this company after a few years? It's not just about what the company is going to give you or how you want to lead a team, right? Here, she actually said that she will be a key liaison, she'll be a key personnel, but she said how she wants to do it and why she wants to do it and why and how she's going to expand her expertise to other teams. So you need to give this context, you need to give these reasons so that the companies can exactly know that, okay, this person has thought things through. This person has a plan for working with us for 5 years, a very structured plan. This person is very serious, right? So those are the 3 sample interview answers that I have for you today. If you need more help or you need mock interviews, just send us an email. Then we are going to be having a demo where I'm going to be selecting somebody from the participants. I'm just kidding. I'm not selecting any one of you, so don't feel like Tommy is going to call you to ask you to answer some questions. Here, I am going to be having a demo with one of our consultants, Fermi. And the interview question we are going to be demoing is, tell me about a time you displayed leadership. In this demo, I will be the recruiter. Fermi is going to be the candidate. We are going to go through a bad interview and a good interview. And we're going to tell you why that is bad and why the other one is good. So the demo starts now. Hi, Fermi. Good afternoon. My name is Anu, and I'll be interviewing you today.
Hi, Tommy. It's good to meet you.
Great. Awesome. So today, I would like to learn more about your skills, and particularly, I want to learn about your leadership skills. So can you tell me about the time you displayed leadership?
Thank you so much for that question. I'll tell you a story about when I was working in a consulting firm. Um, we always had meeting every Monday when I was working with consulting. One Monday morning, my manager walked into the office and told me that I would be leading an audit project for a bank in Nigeria. I panicked because I had not led a huge project before. However, I was excited about the project because it was a huge one, and the success of the project was really important to me. I made sure I understood what was required of me. Then I planned on how to carry out the project, and I had meetings with the various stakeholders of the project. I also monitored my progress from time to time to ensure that I do not exceed my deadlines. At the end of the project, at the end of the 4 months, because we had 4 months to turn in our report, I was able to conclude my report 2 weeks before the deadline, and I got promoted by the end of the project, and it was a very, very exciting time for me.
Yes. Thank you, Fermi, for your answer. So yes, so back to the webinar. I know that you guys would have heard Fermi speak, and in your mind, you're like, okay, she didn't do badly. She spoke about the time she displayed leadership, right? However, she didn't do well at all in this question. And if the hiring decision was based on this question, I will not hire her. Now, I will tell you why I won't hire her. First of all, Fermi studied a lot in this interview. She kept saying, First of all, that's very distracting. Like, are you chewing gum? Are you eating? I don't even understand. Like, you're just making my mind go in different directions. Like, why are you doing, like, what is that? That's the first thing. Secondly, she didn't outline her action points. I don't even know what she did. She just said, "Oh, my boss gave me this project. I'm very excited because I know the project is large." Okay, I asked you about leadership. What did you do? She didn't say anything about what she did. Then she didn't have any learning points. I don't know what she learned. or she didn't learn. I had no idea. I had no idea. Then she didn't exactly talk about what she did. She was basically just rambling and rambling and rambling. So I did this. I understood what was required of the project. I met with various stakeholders. I monitored the progress from time to time. So what did you do? You are just monitoring the project. What exactly did you do as a leader? So the end of this is her story had nothing to do with leadership. She was basically just rambling. Even though you think she has done well, I can't pick out any leadership skills from her. She was basically chewing, disturbing my ears, and I will not hire her. On this answer, I won't hire her because she hasn't displayed anything. She hasn't displayed growth mindset. She hasn't displayed leadership. She didn't attain her action points. And assuming that I'm an American or I'm a French guy, based on the way she was umming, and I didn't even hear her to start with. I literally did not hear anything. So we'll go back to the demo and we'll be asking the question the second time. And Fermi will now be giving us the good answer. So, hi, Fermi. My name is Anu. I'm your interviewer for today. And I'd like to get to know how you fit into our culture here. Can you tell me about a time when you displayed leadership?
Thank you, Anu, for that question. I'll tell you a story about when I worked with my consulting firm. On one of our Monday huddle sections, my manager made me the project lead of a huge contract he just got. It was a huge task because it involved 13 other accounting firms, and our firm was the coordinating consultant. We were consultants for the federal government, and we were to carry out the Federal Inland Revenue Service audit exercise on a bank in Nigeria. We had 4 months to turn in our consolidated final report. So the things I did that changed the narrative, firstly, it was important for me to understand the scope of the deliverables. I did this by having several meetings with my manager and other stakeholders to define our objectives, tasks required of us, deadlines, and the report structure. Secondly, I organized a 3-day planning meeting with the team lead of all 13 accounting firms. It was important for me to understand everyone's skills, their interests, motivations, strengths, and weaknesses. These metrics enabled me to effectively delegate tasks. I shared our deliverables with them. We agreed on strategies to carry out our tasks. We agreed on meeting days, feedback platforms, and how to resolve issues. I assigned responsibilities to members of the team based on their strengths and held them accountable. I also assigned teams such that weaknesses and strengths complement each other and are transferable. Everyone's growth was important to me, so I asked every member of the team to write out 3 skills that could be learned by the end of the project. With these skills, we made a list of all skills required for the task. I also asked members to rank these skills based on their level of expertise. I ensured that I paired someone with low expertise in an area with someone with high expertise to work on assignments together. Thirdly, it was important for me to give and receive feedback. So we held our strategic progress meeting fortnightly to discuss our progress, understand what we could do to improve, and how far we've come in achieving our goal. The fun part, we always had to bond after every strategic meeting because as much as it is important to get to do the job, the well-being of my team members was equally important. It was usually a time to get to know ourselves more, forget work, and dance like no one is watching. That project was very successful in all parameters. We were able to submit our consolidated reports 2 weeks before the deadline. I got promoted as a result of the satisfactory report my manager got, and I established a good relationship with everyone that I worked with. One lesson that stood out to me was the importance of leadership by collaboration and value creation.
Thank you, Fermi, for your answer. Thank you very much. So back to the webinar. What did Fermi do well here? Fermi was more coordinated and did not stutter as much. She outlined our bullet points, our action points, which is very important. She gave our learning points, and she could tie a story exactly to the question asked. Feedback from this also, because she did all of this well. But feedback, learning point is, yes, we could have reduced the amount of time we spent talking about this story. But you can see how she was able to break it down. Literally, you know the action points. Like, you know exactly, this is what she did. These are the three things she did. And this is how she stood out as a leader. So there is no ambiguity here. She already gave us enough context on how she had 4 months to turn in the consolidated project. She kind of told us how she also gave and received feedbacks, which is very important as a leader. Because as a leader, your job is not just to dish out feedback. You should also receive feedback. And she also said how she's been able to do that. She gave the results, right? The results were not just her promotion, on how they submitted the report 2 weeks before, and how she also established a good relationship with everyone, which is actually a very good result. Then she came up with a lesson. We can see here that if I interviewed the 2 different Feromes, I'm going to take the latter Ferome. I won't take the first one because the first person was being very ambiguous. Like, okay, what exactly did you do? I want to answer one question by Augustine. Augustine said, what if the person naturally stammers? Okay. If you naturally stammer, that's okay. Before starting your interview, a lot of companies are very inclusive and they're diverse. Before starting your interview, so you'd be like, the interviewer has called, you'd be like, oh, hi, there's something I would like to tell you about myself. I stammer naturally and I might stutter in some of my words. That way, your interviewer knows that you stutter and you stammer, right? And how you stammer, how that was very different from how Fermi was stuttering. It's 2 different things. So as a natural stammerer, I could see that sometimes you stretch your words. Fermi was stuttering in the first interview question because she wasn't prepared and she was trying to link things in her head, right? She didn't know what to say. So she was like, if I say probably the thing will come to my head, right? And she didn't practice enough. It's kind of different. What is going on? Why is somebody else presenting? Can you guys still see the presentation? Fermi, can you see the presentation?
No, I can't. You can
Okay.
disable that. Yeah.
Okay, hold on, please. Okay. So I guess you guys can see now. Yeah, great, awesome. So then you're able to really differentiate yourself from somebody who actually stutters than somebody that isn't prepared. There's always a difference. So I wanted to get another question. Somebody asked a question for I'm coming. Somebody asked a question about time. In as much as it looked like Fermi spent a lot of time, she actually didn't spend a lot of time. She spent about just 2 minutes answering the question. Yes, tell me about your interview questions should be 1 minute, 30 seconds. 2 minutes, okay, not too bad, but it should not exceed 2 minutes. So here are your next steps. What I want you to do is identify common behavioral interview questions, craft your stories, and type them all out. Buy or rent technical and case prep books. Start your mock interviews and dedicate about 2 hours per week to interview prep. So if whether or not you have an interview set up or not, you need to start working on your interview prep, especially if you're an incoming MBA student or an incoming grad student. You would get these interviews, right? The worst thing that can happen to you is for you to get the interview and not be prepared. So it's never too early to start getting prepared. And even if you're a professional trying to switch careers, it's not too early to start getting prepared, because trust me, telling those stories is not something you can sit down in one day and it's going to come to your head. It will take you time, weeks of practicing and preparing for you to be able to come up with your story that way. If you like access to our interview questions, if you need help crafting out your stories, if you need technical and case interviews help, and if you need us to help you to dive deep on interview strategies, email us at coaching@titanalconsulting.com or anu@titanalconsulting.com. Now I will be I'll be going through different slides, questions. So Yao said, can you share the slides afterwards? Yes, I can give you access to the slides on our Google Slides. I already answered Augustine. Salahuddin said, interview works with time, I guess, but telling all this story will have taken all the time. Actually, no. It's just about 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. You can try to reduce it. My own leadership story is just about 1 minute and 20 seconds. You can reduce it. Then Kingsley, I know that doesn't relate. So Juliet said, leaders have systematically replaced and M with you know. This is very funny. If I'm interviewing you and you say you know, I'm just going to X you in my mind. Please don't say you know. Like, what do I know? I don't even know you. Why are you telling me you know? Don't even say that. Like, I'm not even interested. Because if I start interviewing you, and it's majorly Nigerians that do this, like, oh, you know, I'm like, I know what? Like, this has nothing to do with the interview question. What are you talking about? What I can advise is sometimes we have the need to be able to fill a void. It's okay for you to take 1 second pause. You don't have to talk. Just take that pause. Instead of saying or you know, don't say anything. Trust me, it's not going to be awkward. It's not going to be weird. Nobody is even going to know that you took 1 second pause. So try to practice it. When you are talking to people, resist the urge to say, just resist that urge. Once it wants to come out of your mouth, just don't say anything. Trust me, you will get to learn it and it will be part of you. So somebody said, I'm a natural introvert. How can I handle this? So yes, they are different, like people are different. And I would say that honestly, I'm not an extrovert too, but it's more like something like fake it till you make it. You are an introvert, but this is what the company is asking for. You can practice so that just within the interview time, the interview space, you're able to come up with all of that energy. Does not mean you're going to be jumping up about in the company or no. But within the interview space, you've been able to come up with that energy. And you can only do this by constantly practicing. So put yourself in that situation, constantly practice, and I can help you if you need more help with practicing for your interviews and how, as an introvert, you can get to be more confident with speaking and talking. Yewande said that, can you please shed more light on different interview frameworks and how they can be applied in different interview settings? Example, academic interviews versus professional and job interview questions. Okay, good. So when you mean academic interviews, I need to be sure, do you mean MBA interviews, graduate school interviews? If that is what you mean, I would say majorly it aligns. It's the same behavioral interview questions that they would ask you. Because for your MBA or grad school admissions interview, They want to know how you fit in into the classroom. They want to know how you collaborate. They want to know how you deal with stress. So those are the kind of things that they want to know. And they also want to learn from your story. So you worked for 5 years or 10 years somewhere. How can you leverage that experience and bring it to the MBA classroom? The other type of academic interview I can think you're talking about is maybe you are interviewing for a professor role or something. I don't think that's what you're talking about. But if that is it, for all those kind of roles, they need to know a lot about your publication. So how do you talk about all of these things that you've done? How much impact has it generated? That's what they want to hear. I can also help more. I can set up more time for us to talk more on the different interview frameworks, because the frameworks I've listed here are not exhaustive. They're just a few for this webinar. If you need more help, send me an email and I will set up time for us to talk more. Then, yeah. Oh, okay. Yomandi already said I am graduate school admissions interview. Yes. So it's the same type of questions they're going to be asking you. But good enough for your graduate school admissions interview, they're not going to be asking you finance interviews or operations interviews. However, some schools would ask you case interviews. They want to see how you think, right? So you have a few case interviews, but majorly behavioral interviews. How do you fit into the class? Because what the schools they're looking for, they're trying to bring in diverse people into the classroom. They want somebody that would relate, somebody that has a growth mindset, somebody that is not judgmental, somebody that is not racist. So those are the kind of people they want to put together. So how does your story show that you can grow? How does your story show that you can collaborate? How does your story show how you deal with failure? Because in your grad school program, there are going to be a lot of failures. So if you cannot exactly deal with failure, I don't think you'd be a right fit for the MBA program. And they're also looking at especially how you can interview. Grad schools will not take you if you don't interview well, because if you don't know how to interview, there is a very slim chance of you getting a job after your grad school program. If you don't get a job, their rankings go down. So they're not even going to pick you in the first place. So it's a blend of job, professional interview, and school interview. The only extra thing you have to learn is, okay, what are the specific things about those schools? So instead of you knowing, okay, these are the values of the company, what are the values of the schools? Then does the school do executive mentorship or executive coaching, all those things? Try to learn that and blend it into your own story. Is it recommended to reach out to alumni in the company before you start your interview? And if so, what can you say? Yes. Actually, it is even recommended to reach out to alumni of your school in those companies, even way before you get your interview. A lot of them could be instrumental in you even getting the interview in the first place. So what can you say? You reach out to them on LinkedIn, just tell them you want to learn about the culture of the company, that you're interested in a career and you want to learn if you're a cultural fit. Don't type and say, oh, I want a job. How can you refer me? No, learning about the cultural fit is very important, because here a lot of times about fit. Some people are good fits for some companies, some people are not good fits for some companies. So first of all, you have to know that, and getting experiences from different alums would actually help you in making up that decision. Joanne said, what is the minimum number of interview preps that you recommend before an interview? Okay, so this is this depends on you. For some people, they already started preparing for their interviews since like May for an interview in September. In fact, some people started preparing for interviews before they even got the interview. So they've been preparing like twice a week, right? Then they get an interview. Probably they'll just need 1 or 2 marks. It's going to be different from somebody that hasn't prepared for an interview at all. Then you have an interview next week. That one is going to be a different case entirely. I would say that you need to have at least 1 mock interview every week from now, especially if you are planning to come for your grad school program in the fall. Whether or not you have an interview, you need to start prepping, because there are general questions like, tell me about the time you display leadership, all those general questions that you don't even need to attach to a particular company. You need to start preparing that. We are out of time. Yeah. Okay. So Anyede said that based on the feedback on Fermi's response, you hinted that her stuttering was due to lack of preparation for that question. Given that one cannot possibly know the bounds of the question one will be asked, how do you address the surprise questions without very little earns or pauses in between your response? Yes, that is why you are supposed to answer as many questions as possible before the interview. So when I was in school, I answered 60 interview questions and people thought that I was crazy. Why will you answer 60 interview questions? Well, I wasn't going to take any chances. A lot of people have just 5 stories. And when they get into the interview, they will not ask them one other question and they're not ready. Answer as many questions as possible. I would say that after I answered my 60 questions, all of the interviews that I had, there was no surprise question. And this is in all humility. I already answered all of the questions I could possibly answer in this world. I know that would be hard. That could be hard. But if you start now, you could possibly finish it before September. Another thing is a lot of the questions are related. So they'll tell you, tell me about the time you created something and tell me about the time you were innovative. Those questions are the same thing. So if you need 30 seconds or 10 seconds to think about the question in your head, you just tell your interviewer, can I have 10 seconds to get myself together? Then you connect the question to something you already practiced for. Similarly said, what if I were asked a question that I do not know anything about? What can I do at that point? Okay, so I know that a lot of times people are not prepared and then they start to ramble. So you can ask the interviewer, just like I said for Anyede, can I get 10 seconds or 15 seconds? Within that 15 seconds, you just think about, okay, I know nothing about creativity, but what can I say? Try to say something. The truth is, a lot of times you're going to end up saying nonsense. That is why it is always advisable for you to know something about everything and not go to an interview without knowing anything. Like we have big case books, marketing prep books. I read all of my marketing prep books. I read all of my case books, all of my finance prep books. You cannot leave anything to chance. You have to be ready and you have to be prepared. So please, can you reiterate the correct approach to tell me about yourself? Inkem, I'm so sorry, we are 3 minutes above time or over time. Can you send me an email? Right? Can you send me an email and I would be responding? Also, I will need to stop the meeting because like we need to be respectful of people's times. But if you still want to ask questions, you can stay in the chat room and the consultants will be answering you. So people are going to be answering you in the chat room if you want to stay. So we have our upcoming webinars, how to stand out at an MBA conference 7th of June, how to improve your communication skills 21st of June. If you're interested in how to land a job in consulting or a job in tech, attend our webinars July. Then our virtual case competition was supposed to be in May, but it was moved to June because of things beyond our control. So I hope I was able to add value to you today, and I hope to get to see most of you soon. If you want our prize list, you can send us an email at coaching@titanalconsulting.com. Want to talk to us? We host office hours every week, 10 slots per week. You need to sign up very early so you can get a slot. Our email address is coaching@titanalconsulting.com. My personal email address is anu@titanalconsulting.com. And the website is www.titanalconsulting.com. Thank you for your time today. And I'm sorry I'm 4 minutes over time. Thank you very much, guys. If you want to talk more with the consultants, you can stay in the chat room and we are going to be answering you. Thank you, guys.